everybody, it is Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should subscribe, become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel, and follow me over on social media. So, today we are going to be talking about, I guess, someone's parents. Like yesterday we talked about Kagame's mom. Now we're talking about Juleka and Luka's possible dad. Which is just, I don't know, this is just so funny to me, but also just so crazy. Like, this is not as crazy compared to the other stuff we've been doing. Like, this is a pretty normal theory, but I still wanted to talk about it anyway. Also, guys, I don't know if you guys can tell, I think that I'm sick. I think that I got something just because, like, you're going to school, you're taking the subway, you're taking the train and the bus and, like, all these places that are infested with germs. I don't feel so good, so just to get that out of the way. But let's actually talk about the theory that we're talking about today, okay? This theory started to take off after Desperata, but as I was doing my, like, I guess my research, if you really want to call it that, I feel like that since Jagged Stone was a thing, like, people have been saying this because people, like, looked at Juleka and looked at his hair and they were like, interesting, and they thought that it would be brought up, you know, when he was first existing, but like it never was. But now we actually have some interesting and spicy information, okay? And so I think that Jagged Stone is the father of both Luka and Juleka, all right? And so I'm gonna explain why, all right? So first of all, they have the same hair, right? And so, I can't remember Luka's mom's name. I know they call her, like, Nanarchy as a nickname, but I can't remember her actual name. But yeah, so her hair's gray, right? I guess with just old age or something, or she's just made the choice to, like, let her gray grow out instead of coloring it over. But I think that Jagged's hair is basically a perfect match for Juleka, and then it's possible that on the other side of things, you know, we can't really tell, I guess, in that, like, cover art, but I would, like, sort of theorize that maybe she had blue hair like Luka. So Luka gets his hair from his mom, Juleka gets her hair from her dad, which would be Jagged Stone, right? And so that's sort of the first thing, is appearance-wise, there's a look going on here, okay? Like, something's definitely going on here with that. As for the other stuff, Luka has been playing since he was in diapers, okay? They both, I think that Juleka, like, even in the end screen for Desperata, like, Juleka's holding a guitar, they both seem to have natural musical talent, okay? And I don't have any research on this. I don't have any studies, all right? This is just a cartoon, so keep that in mind, okay? But in my opinion, right, I feel like that if your parents maybe had musical inclinations, you're probably more likely to get musical inclinations, right? Or proficiency or something, or even just an interest. Like, that isn't a hard and fast rule, guys. Like, sometimes, like, you know, a lot of parents, like, are very musical or were very sporty and their kids are the complete opposite. But I think that, like, in cartoon sort of logic, it would be like, oh, okay, well, Luka has been playing because his mom and Jagged, which would be his dad, have a proficiency in music, and that was sort of passed down to him. Does that make sense? Like, even for me, I guess this is a weird example, everybody in my family plays an instrument. Like, my mom does, her sisters do, like, they probably could have all started a band. I can sing, right? Like, we all sort of have this musical talent going back to, like, my grandfather used to play, like, the trumpet or something like that, or the tuba or something like that. So, you know, I'm just using that as a personal anecdote. It's that there seems to be some sort of musical lineage in my family, and so I would say that because Luka and Juleka seem to have this natural, like, proficiency, and, like, if they were really playing since they were in diapers, at least Luka, that means that he would have a natural inclination to play the guitar. And you could say, oh, well, he got that from his mom, but if Jagged is his dad, like, that's an added sort of thing, right? So that's not the biggest piece of evidence, though. Like, you have this sort of conversation that goes back between them, like, Jagged sort of, like, serenading her and trying to convince her, in a sense, and, like, he says, you know very well you were my first choice. You were the only one, Nanarchy. And then she says, you can't fool me, pirate. I bet you threw your guitarist overboard again. And then he's like, she left me. And then he says, look how perfect we were together. Come back and play with me, Nanarchy. And so then they look at each other and they're like, Jagged and our mom. And so she says, we aren't co-captains anymore. I play alone now, Skipper. And obviously this is talking about music, right? But same time, guys, like, let's all be honest. Does it not seem like there's some sort of undertones here about, like, relationships and stuff like that? Because let's look at this again. You know very well you were my first choice. You were the only one. Like, you were my soulmate, my one and only. Not only to play instruments with, but, you know, the only one in my heart, right? Like, you could obviously argue that that could be taken in a romantic way. Like, obviously he's looking for a guitarist, but at the same time, with all our evidence combined, for him to be like, you were the only one, Nanarchy, and he has a nickname for her. You know what I mean? A very cute nickname for her. Okay, so there's also that. And then, you know, look how perfect we were together. Come back and play with me, Nanarchy. And so it's like, again, they're talking about music, but look how perfect we are together. You know what I mean? It just, there's romantic undertones here, or subtext, and I would love to see the other translations of this conversation, like the French version or the English version, to see how they handle it. But then there's like Jagged and our mom, and so like you kind of like, oh, Jagged and our mom used to play together, but also like, Jagged and our mom used to be together, because that would be sort of the same reaction. You know what I'm saying? And then there's like, we aren't co-captains anymore. I play alone now, Skipper. And to me, co-captains is sort of like, obviously playing together is one thing, but you could also argue that the co-captains thing is sort of like a relationship thing. I think I've heard like parents talk about that, like, you know, we're co-captains in this, like raising a kid or something. And so she's saying, we aren't co-captains anymore. I play alone now, Skipper. And so it seems like that Jagged is their dad, and that this is all a reference to, you can't fool me, Jagged, you left me, or something, or our relationship didn't work out. And so I'm not gonna play guitar with you and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so I know that people don't like this theory because it seems like Jagged is like a deadbeat, or like left his children or something, but it's sort of like, I don't know, that's just life, man, and he's a rock star, and so maybe that's something that only the adults are supposed to get compared to like kids or something. But you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, when people are like, oh, well, you know, this is a kid's show, I sort of think about things like Toy Story, right? Like Toy Story, Andy's dad is nowhere to be seen, and lots of people have theorized that Andy's dad, like, is something happened to him and they like divorced or something, and then Andy's mom, like, that's why she's moving. They're like downsizing because their dad like left or something, like, you know what I'm saying, or they got a divorce, like, you know, Miraculous isn't exactly Disney, but it's on Disney Channel, and Disney has gone further with their sort of themes. I don't think we've had like an exact this situation, but at the same time, this isn't the most, you understand what I'm saying, guys? Like, there have been Disney movies before that have dealt with, you know, stuff like this, and I know like people are sort of like, well, that would make Jagged a bad person, and like people like may not like him anymore. But I also feel like, does he even know? I mean, he must know. Juleka looks exactly like him, right? But I don't know, maybe Luka's mom was okay with that, because think about it, like, she's sort of this free spirit, independent, she literally runs her own ship, right? They live on a boat, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that she could have been like, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? Which obviously, you know, still isn't nice, still isn't an excuse. I'm just saying, she seems like a very independent lady. She seems like she's almost living off the grid, because she's on this sort of like houseboat and all this stuff. I don't know. It just seems like she didn't need Jagged, all right? She was doing fine by herself. And so it may not necessarily be, wow, Jagged's a horrible person, he doesn't talk to his kids. It may just be more like, maybe she didn't tell him because she was like, you know what, I'm fine on my own. But at the same time, if this is canon, I have no idea how he wouldn't realize it, because they look exactly alike. But remember, this is a world where everybody can't tell that Marinette is Ladybug even though they wear the same hairstyle, so I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, that's the end of this theory. I know that I understand why people may be like, but that would make Jagged a deadbeat and then I wouldn't like him anymore. I understand that, but it's probably, I don't know, like, it's probably something that they're not going to get into in the show proper, and it's just something that adults are supposed to pick up on, like if they're watching the show with their kids. And so I don't know if they intended to make Jagged like a terrible person or something. I'm sure that's not what they meant to do. But yeah, so that's the theory. That's basically it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you for watching, and thank you to our wonderful patrons over on Patreon who support the channel. Their names will scroll through now.